Hare Krishna. Thank you all for tolerating few extra minutes. It's Ekadashi, so normally morning time takes little extra effort for the morning offering. I'm still sorry for my delay. We'll start with the invocation prayers. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalaka Chakshurumitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamlam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahakana Raghunathan Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijan Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavanusutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, thank you all for coming. So today we will be revising Bhagavad Gita chapters 13 and 14. And last week during Rath Yatra, many devotees did a lot of services here at the Toronto temple and they had some learnings and realizations which they will share towards the end of class today. So yesterday at the Path 6 and 7 class, we did not have time. We ran out of time before the class ended. So we did not discuss at Path 6 and 7. We'll discuss this at Path 6 and 7 at our following class. So today, devotees who are virtually present here, who are also doing services, can share their experiences. And today, with Krishna's arrangement, super excellent Krishna's arrangement on the auspicious day of Ekadashi, we are starting a new batch of Srimad Bhagavatam at batch 5, which is going to start immediately after this class ends. I did not plan this, but it so happens that it falls on Ekadashi day. This is all arrangement by the Providence, arrangement by Krishna. So let's begin with as usual. What we do is that I give a quick overview of the chapter. Then we read the translations of the chapter, and then we will have presenters do their presentations. Now, I'll also bring up on screen towards the end of the class today that after we finish Bhagavad Gita revisions in the next 2 classes, we will then revise Nectar of Instruction. So I'll bring up on screen. It will be the same link that you will be following where I have laid out Nectar of Instruction presentations, and we will go from there. All right, so let me give a quick overview of chapter 13. So we are now in the Jnana section of Bhagavad Gita. Chapters 1 to 6 are about how karma leads to bhakti. Chapters 7 to 12 directly talk about bhakti. And chapters 13 to 18 are about how jnana leads to bhakti. Chapter 13 is philosophically most complex chapter as well as the next chapter, chapter 14 also, is philosophically very complex. Chapter 13 is titled Nature, Enjoyer and Consciousness, Prakriti, Purusha, Vivek, Yoga, and is divided into 6 sections. Section 1 is verse number 1, where Arjuna asks 6 questions. Section 2 is verses 2 to 7. Title is Kshetra and Kshetrakya. Is answer to Arjuna's questions number 3 and 4. Section 3 is verses 8 to 12. Jnana, the process of knowledge, is answer to Arjuna's 5th question. Section 4 is verses 13 to 19. Jnana, the object of knowledge. This is answer to Arjuna's 6th question. Section 5 is verses 20 to 26. Prakriti and Purusha. This is answer to Arjuna's questions number 1 and 2. That how do Purusha and Prakriti interact? Section 6 is verses 27 to 35 is a bonus section. Title is Jnana Chakshu. That how do all the above come together? That is, to see with philosophical vision instead of just our default material vision. So this last set of verses in section 6, verses 27 to 35 is a bonus section where Krishna offers the Jnana Chakshu, the eyes of knowledge, by which one can see reality beyond how it appears at the material level. So let's start reading verses one at a time. Abhishek Prabhu, which is section 1, verse number 1, is Arjuna's 6 questions.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Chapter 13.
You can actually read 1 and 2 because they are together.
Chapter 13, Nature, Enjoyer, and the Enjoyer and Consciousness, verse 1 and 2. Arjuna said, "O my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, and the field and the knower of the field, and of knowledge and the object of knowledge." The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "This body, O son of Kunti, is called the field, and one who knows this body is called the knower of the field."
Now, section 2 is actually verses 2 to 7. Verse 2 is overlapping with verse number 1. Section 2 title is Kshetra and Kshetrakya, which is answer to Arjuna's question number 3 and 4. Archana's verses 3 to 7.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Hare Krishna everyone. O son of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all the bodies. And to understand this body, and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion. Verse 4. Now please hear from my brief description of this field of activity and how it is constituted, that what is changes are whence it is produced, who that knower of the field of activity is, and what is his influence are. Verse 5. That knowledge of the field of activity and of knower of activities is described by the various sages in the various Vedic writing. It is specially presented in the Vedanta Sutra with all the reasoning as to cause and the effect. Verse 6 and 7. The 5 great elements, false ego, intelligent, the unmanifested, the 10th sense, and the mind, the 5 sense object, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, the life symptoms, and the convention. All these are considered in a summary to be field of activities and it in an interaction.
Very good. Now, Dipanshu Prabhu will read section 3, verses 8 to 12. Jnana, the process of knowledge. This is answer to Arjuna's fifth question.
Hare Krishna. Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self realization, and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be is ignorance. Hare Krishna.
Dara will read section 4, verses 13 to 19. Gayam, the object of knowledge. This answer to Arjuna's sixth question.
Hare Krishna. Text 13. I shall now explain the knowledge, knowing which you will taste the eternal. Brahman, the spirit, beginningless and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. Text 14. Everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes and faces, and he has ears everywhere. In this way, the Supersoul exists, pervading everything. Text 15. The Supersoul is the original source of all senses, yet he is without senses. He is unattached, although he is the maintainer of all living beings. He transcends the modes of nature, and at the same time, he is the master of all the modes of material nature. Text 16. The Supreme Truth exists outside and inside of all living beings, the moving and the non-moving. Because he is subtle, he is beyond the power of material senses to see or to know. Although far, far away, he is also near to all. Text 17. Although the Supersoul appears to be divided among all beings, he is never divided. He is situated as one. Although he is the maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that he devours and develops all. Text 18. He is the source of light in all luminous objects. He is beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. He is knowledge, he is the object of knowledge, and he is the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart. Text 19. Thus the field of activities, the body, knowledge and knowledgeable have been similarly described by me. Only my devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain to my nature. Hare Krishna.
Divya will read section 5, verses 20 to 26. Prakriti and Purusha. Answer to Arjuna's question number 1 and 2.
Hare Krishna. Text 20.
A little louder.
Yes, Prabhuji. Material nature and the living entities should be understood to be beginningless. The transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature. Text 21. Nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in the world. Text 22. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil among various species. Text 23. Yet in this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the Supersoul. Text 24. One who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, and the interaction of the modes of nature is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position. Text 25. Some perceive the Supersoul within themselves through meditation, others through the cultivation of knowledge, and still others through working without fruitive desires. Text 26. Again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about him from others. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death.
Chandran Prabhu will read section 6, verses 27 to 35. Jnana Chakshu.
Hare Krishna. Text 27. O chief of the Bharatas, know that whatever you see in existence, both the moving and the non-moving, is only a combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field. Text 38. One who sees the super soul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies and who understands that neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, actually see. 29. One who sees the super soul equally present everywhere in every living being does not degrade himself by his mind. Thus, he approaches the transcendental destination. Text 30. One who can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees. Text 31. When a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies, and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, he attains to the Brahman conception. The text 32. Those with the vision of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body, O Arjuna, the soul neither does anything nor is he entangled. Text 33. The sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all pervading. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body, though situated in the body. Text 34. O son of Bharata, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body of consciousness. Text 35. Those who see with eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body, and can also understand the process of liberation from bondage in material nature, attain to the Supreme Soul. Hare Krishna.
All right, very good. So Gauri has recorded her presentation and I'll play and then we will discuss.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances and forgive me for any mistakes. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. In chapter 12, Krishna explains the different processes of transcendental service for approaching him. Devotional service is the only absolute path for self-realization. Jnanis eventually come to him, but their path is difficult. He lists the secondary qualities of a devotee, which will help him avoid offenses and take up bhakti yoga seriously. He concludes that by good association one develops attachment for pure devotional service, then accepts a spiritual master, then begins to chant, follow the regulative principles and start serving the Lord. This is a summary of chapter 12. In chapter 13, Arjuna makes 6 enquiries and Krishna provides answers to them in verses 1 to 7. Krishna then explains 20 items of knowledge in verse 8 to 12. The soul and super soul are explained in verses 13 to 19. The enjoyer is explained in verses 20 to 26. Developing the seer mentality is explained in verses 27 to 29. Developing transcendental vision is explained in verses 30 to 35. Beginning with this chapter, Krishna explains how to achieve bhakti through knowledge or jnana yoga and provides the philosophical knowledge required to remove oneself from material entanglement and be delivered from the ocean of birth and death, detachment from the material and attachment to the spiritual. Arjuna's 6 questions are: what is Prakriti, material nature? What is Purusha, enjoyer of matter? What is Kshetra? Field in which one can act. What is Kshetrakya? Knower of the field. What is Jnanam? 20 processes of knowledge. What is Gyayam? The object of knowledge. This chapter is titled Nature, the Enjoyer and Consciousness because Arjuna inquires about three things: matter or nature, Prakriti, Kshetra, spirit or enjoyer, Purusha, Kshetrakya, and knowledge of consciousness, Jnana, Gyeya. Krishna first explains about Kshetra and Kshetrakya. Kshetra is the field of activities. The body, the field in which we do our activities with our senses. Kshetrakya is the soul, the knower of the field, and also the super soul, the knower of all fields. The super soul is compared to a king who oversees farmers and knows about all farmers' fields. There are two Purushas, us and the Lord. The Lord Purusha and Kshetragya are enjoyers, but we imagine ourselves to be enjoyers. Jnanam is perfect knowledge of the material body and its knowers. Gyayam is the object of knowledge that awakens our consciousness, Jnana Chakshu. The field of activities consists of gross and subtle elements, senses and sense objects. The transformation of this field causes happiness and distress, desire and hatred, etc. The subtle body consists of mind, intelligence, and ego. The gross body consists of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. The gross and subtle body are called Kshetra. The 24 elements that constitute the Kshetra are 5 great elements, Mahabhuta, 5 knowledge acquiring senses, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin, Jnanendriyas, 5 working senses, voice, legs, hands, genitals, anus, Karmendriyas, 5 objects of senses, smell, taste, touch, form, sound, mind, intelligence, false ego, and the unmanifested state of the 3 modes of material nature, Pradhana. The aggregate of these 24 elements is called the field of activity, Kshetra. By an analytical study of these 24 elements, one can understand the field of activity. Transformation of this field causes happiness, distress, which shows in our subtle body. There are 5 layers that surround the true self, Atma. They are Annamaya Kosha, where we think that food is God. Pranamaya Kosha, where one wants to survive. Jnanamaya Kosha, where one appreciates the subtle interactions of mind, intelligence, and emotions. Vijnanamaya Kosha, where one starts to research on self-realization. Anandamaya Kosha, where one understands Param Brahma and the Jivatma experiences Ananda. One who desires to know the 24 elements in detail, along with their interactions, should study the philosophy in more detail. Kshetra is a non-permanent material thing, but Kshetragya is permanent and non-material. In the material world, the focus is on the field of activities. Why should we change our focus from the field of activities to something superior? To change our worldview. When we think of our body as the source of pleasure versus when we think of this world as a place for correction. Bodily field of activities should not be everything. We should uplift our vision. We should wake up from bodily consciousness and mundane rasas, from the cycle of bhoga tyag. As mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.19, which tells us about the nature of spiritual pleasure gained by acquiring Param Drishtva. The sages were initially karmakandis, but they developed detachment in association with Roma Harshana. We can also change our field of activities in this life. Change is possible by cultivating the items of knowledge. Jnana. Jnana is cultivating the qualities described in verses 8 to 12. Gyeya. Gyeya are the objects that are to be known. Jivatma and Paramatma. The super soul is situated in everyone's heart. The qualities of the super soul are described in verses 14 to 18. These are all understood by the Lord's devotees. By focusing on the object of knowledge, we will go back to the spiritual plane. Dualities arise in matter, not in spirit. As mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.11, in the relative world, the knower is the living spirit or superior energy, whereas the known is inert matter or inferior energy. This leads to the duality of inferior and superior energy. In the absolute realm, the knower and the known are both of superior energy. The process of knowledge starts with practicing humility. Prakriti is female, Purusha is male. To overcome Purusha identification with Prakriti, one must rise above the three modes of material nature, transcending them, which is the essence of Krishna consciousness. The three gunas don't act on us when we practice devotional service. Purusha experiences dualities when he identifies with Prakriti and gets entangled. The second type of Purusha is the super soul, Maheshwara, who is never entangled. From seeker to seer, we need to change our view. From having an enjoying mentality to having a service mentality. The seeker tries to perceive the super soul through Karma Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Jnana Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. But others who hear from a pure devotee are also able to transcend birth and death. With this view, we can stay aloof from this material world and stay attached to Krishna. Such a person can act with proper knowledge. With Jnana Chakshu, he sees the super soul in every living entity. He is not degraded and he is situated in transcendence. The body performs activities while the soul does nothing. If we relate to the soul, then we are separate from bodily activities and the soul is a non-doer. The soul does not mix with matter and illuminates the body with consciousness. The consciousness of one body is not shared with another bodies, and the super soul is conscious of all bodies. A complete understanding of this chapter is essential. Accepting a spiritual master, one can learn to distinguish between matter and spirit. Only then can one proceed further in self-realization. Please forgive me for any errors or mistakes. Hare Krishna.
All right, any questions, comments, realizations for Gauri? All right. I will do quick presentation of chapter 13. Chapters 1 to 6 are on how karma leads to bhakti. Chapters 7 to 12 are directly on bhakti. And chapters 13 to 18 are on how jnana leads to bhakti. So we are now in the jnana section. Chapter 13 is titled Nature, Enjoyer and Consciousness. Prakriti, Purusha, Vivek, Yoga. 13.22 verse is among the most important verses in Bhagavad Gita, and 13.22 verse is called as the seed verse of Bhagavad Gita. Even though 13.22 is not a key memorization verse, definitely a very, very important verse. 13.22 is Purusha Prakriti Stohi Bhungte Prakriti Jan Gunan Karanam Guna Sangha Asya Sad Asad Yoni Janmashu. So the whole material existence is grown on the enjoying mentality of the soul, the Bhungte. That Bhungte, the enjoying mentality, is the seed of the tree of material existence. The tree of material existence is watered by the three modes of material nature for nourishment, which is described in chapter 14. Chapter 15, then Krishna describes the metaphor of the upside down banyan tree to describe material existence and how the tree needs to be cut down by detachment. In 13.22, there is a word Sangha, means association, attachment, that gets the soul entangled under Prakriti. And in 15.3 and 4, Krishna describes Asanga, by detachment. One can become free. In chapter 16, the upper and lower parts of the tree are described. Chapter 16 is titled The Divine and Demoniac Nature, that these are the two extremes of the tree. The divine and the demoniac, the two extremes. Then chapter 17 describes the intermediate parts, that there are people who are not explicitly devoted to God according to scriptures, nor they are defiant of God. So what about them is described in chapter 17 as the in-between parts of the two extremes of divine and demoniac nature. And chapter 18 has a summary of everything. So that's a quick overview of the last section of Bhagavad Gita from chapters 13 to 18. So at the start of chapter 13, Arjuna inquires on Purusha and Prakriti, Kshetra, Kshetragya, and Jnana and Geyam. Krishna explains, Kshetra refers to the field of activity, meaning our body. Kshetra refers to area of influence. Kshetra is material nature constituted of 24 elements. Attachment, aversion, happiness, and distress are the transformations, the changes that Kshetra or the body goes through. There are two Kshetrakya, meaning there are two knowers of the field, the Paramatma and the individual Atma. We all, as individual Atma, are Kshetragya of our own body only, and that too also partially. We are not Kshetragya of all bodies. The Paramatma, Krishna, is the Kshetragya of all bodies, and that too in 100%. The movie theater example analogy comes up again and again in this chapter, the analogy of the person watching a movie. That whatever is happening on the movie screen has nothing to do with the person watching the movie. The person watching the movie is like the Kshetragya, and the movie screen is like the Kshetra. The changes happening within the illusory Kshetra of movie screen have an effect leading to desire, distress, and happiness. Therefore, we don't have to get attached to the illusory movie screen or the illusory body. Next, Krishna explains Jnana, the process of knowledge, where Krishna describes 20 qualities that we have to build as part of our spiritual journey. For actual advancement in spiritual science, one should test to see how far he is progressing. And this can be judged by these 20 qualities. While practicing bhakti, devotional service, we should make sure that we are developing these qualities. Some of the qualities in brief, first is humility. Humility means not being proud when you have a reason to be proud. Humility means one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. Devotee accepts respect, but devotee does not demand respect. Not expecting respect or not demanding respect means devotee does not demand respect. Devotee just goes and does service. Devotee is not anxious to get respect. Next is pridelessness. Pride means to be proud when I do not have a reason to be proud. Next quality is non-violence. One should try his best to distribute real knowledge to people so that they become enlightened and leave this material entanglement. That's the elevated definition of non-violence, a spiritual definition of non-violence given by Srila Prabhupada. Next item is the 4 problems of life of Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi are just surface problems. Just as a small portion of iceberg is visible, but below the water, iceberg would be very big. Similarly, the deeper problem is I do not have all these 20 qualities developed in me. And second, my consciousness is attracted to matter and not to spirit. Unless I have a negative view of this material life, there is no impetus for making spiritual advancement. Next item is detachment from children, wife, and home. It is not that one should have no feeling for family. No, we should have feelings. If family members are not devotees, we should see this as an opportunity to practice devotional principles such as humility, tolerance, etc. Devotee should be affectionate but not attached to the family. The difference between attachment and affection is detachment means lack of excessive emotional entanglement in material things. A good example of attachment is Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana. Even when a person, Duryodhana, is going on a wrong track and the other person, Dhritarashtra, allows Duryodhana to continue on the wrong track because one cannot say no to the attached person, cannot say no to Duryodhana. Even when Duryodhana is going on a wrong track, this is because of attachment. Attachment makes the powerful powerless. If you have affection for the person, then you will correct that person from going in the wrong direction. The beginning of knowledge is all these qualities, and it begins with amanitva, humility. Everything apart from these qualities is ignorance. Material knowledge is required to function in the material world. But material knowledge does not help a person attain liberation. Therefore, material knowledge is not considered jnana from the point of view of jnana of a spiritual seeker. Next, Krishna explains Gayam, the object of knowledge. Gayam for us is the knowledge of Atma and Paramatma and the relationship of love between the two. This knowledge brings liberation. Prakriti is material nature. The matter itself means the pradhan is energy of God. Prakriti, the energy, is not temporary. Prakriti is eternal. The forms created from the matter are temporary. Example, our individual bodily forms, these are temporary. Purusha, there are 2 Purushas in the body. One is Paramatma as overseer and permitter of Jiva's desires. Paramatma is not caught under Prakriti. The second Purusha is Jiva or the individual Atma. Both Paramatma and Jiva are eternal. The soul becomes entangled or caught under Prakriti because of Bhoktatve and Bhunte. Both words have the same meaning of enjoying mentality. The purpose of Krishna describing all these points in chapter 13 is that one will understand that real life is beyond material existence. Real life is transcendental. Means one will understand that whatever I am observing is just a movie. Beyond this movie of material existence, I actually have a real life. The movie is just temporary. When one understands that one's real life is much more exciting than this temporary movie of material existence, then one will stop watching this movie. Means one will not want to be in this material world, rather go back to real life of spiritual world. In the last section of verses 27 to 35, Krishna explains Jnana Chakshu, the eyes of knowledge. This will grant liberation by seeing reality beyond how it appears at the material level and to see the soul as non-doer. That's a quick summary of chapter 13. Any questions, comments, realizations?
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Like I have not gone through that chapter, so is it okay to ask a
Yeah, go ahead.
So, very basic thing that when Lord says that so and so things are knowledge, rest all is ignorance. Uh, like there are so many things in the rest all. So, what is this? That only this is knowledge, but everything else is.
Yeah, Prabhupada explains in the purport that 13 to 8, 13 to chapter 13, verses 8 to 12, Prabhupada explains this, that why Krishna is calling everything else as ignorance, because everything else, including the material knowledge that we have, is ignorance because it keeps us bound in bodily consciousness. And we have discussed this in Ishopanishad also, mantras number 9, 10, and 11, that how the knowledge of the material world as well as the ignorance of material world is then combined as ignorance as compared to spiritual knowledge, which is real knowledge. So the prime reason is the material world knowledge has nothing to do by getting you out of material existence. Therefore, this is ignorance. Abhishek Prabhu. Very good. Okay. Let's discuss chapter 14. So we discussed in chapter 13 about the entanglement briefly of the soul. Now, gunas or modes of material nature do not affect the soul. The soul remains transcendental to gunas. In Bhagavad Gita 13.22 verse, because of contact with gunas, the soul becomes bound and meets with good and evil in various species. Meaning, the association with the modes is the cause of bondage, but the soul is nirgun atma, means soul is transcendental. When one goes beyond the influence of the modes, then one becomes free from bondage. So modes are the critical factor that bring about bondage, But modes are not the cause of bondage. The cause of bondage is soul's bhungte, or soul's desire to enjoy the material world. The bondage is executed through the modes. Recognizing this enables one to develop some seriousness in knowing what are the modes. Modes are the mechanisms by which soul is bound within the material existence. How the modes entangle the transcendental soul in material world is explained in this chapter, chapter 14. Chapter 14 is titled The Modes of Material Nature, Guna Traya Vibhaga Yoga. Is divided into 3 sections. Section 1 is verses 1 to 13. How the soul is conditioned by the modes. Section 2 is verses 14 to 18. The effect and conditioning by the modes. And section 3 is verses 19 to 27. Transcending the modes. Malti will read section 1 verses 1 to 13. How the soul is conditioned by the modes. So verses 1 and 2 are glorification of the knowledge. Then verses 3 and 4 are how the soul contacts matter. Verses 5 to 9 are how the modes bind the soul. And verses 10 to 13 describe identifying the modes dominating us by their principal characteristics. Malti, 1 to 13 translations. Loudly.
And text 1.
We cannot hear you.
Hare Krishna.
Can go ahead.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead says.
Your voice is still not clear.
Then it's the issue in my laptop.
Okay, you want to disconnect and connect again, and in the meantime, Matan Prabhu will read.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Matan Prabhu, 1 to 13 translations.
Hare Krishna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Again I shall declare to you this supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all the sages have attained the supreme perfection. Text 2. By becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain to the transcendental nature like my own. Thus established, one is not born at the time of creation or disturbed at the time of dissolution. Text 3. The total material substance called Brahman is the source of birth, and it is that Brahman that impregnate, making possible the birth of all living beings, O son of Bharata. Text 4. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kundi, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving Father. Text 5. Material nature consists of 3 modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the eternal living entity comes in contact with nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, he becomes conditioned by these modes. Text 6. O sinless one, the mode of goodness, being poorer than the others, is illuminating, and it frees one from all sinful reaction. Those situated in that mode become conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge. Text 7. The mode of passion is born of unlimited desires and longing, O son of Kundi, and because of this, the embodied living entity is bound to material fruitive actions. Text 8. O son of Bharata, know that the mode of darkness, born of ignorance, is the delusion of all embodied living entities. The results of this mode are madness, indolences, and sleep, which bind the conditioned soul. Text 9. O son of Bharata, the mode of goodness conditions one to happiness, passion conditions one to fruitive action, and ignorance, covering one's knowledge, binds one to madness. Text 10. Sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent, defeating the modes of passion and ignorance, O son of Bharata. Sometimes the mode of passion defeats goodness and ignorance, and at other times ignorance defeats goodness and passion. In this way, there is always competition for supremacy. Text 11. The manifestation of the mode of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of the body are eliminated by knowledge. Text 12. O chief of Bharata, when there is an increase in the mode of passion, the symptoms of great attachment, fruitive activity, intense endeavor, and uncontrollable desire and hankering develop. Text 13. When there is an increase in the mode of ignorance, O son of Kuru, darkness, inertia, madness, and illusion are manifested. Hare
All
Krishna.
right. Malti, are you now able to read section 2, verses 14 to 18? Title is The Effects of Conditioning by the Modes.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Text 14. When one dies in the mode of goodness, he attains to the pure higher planets of the great sages. Text 15. When one dies in the mode of passion, he takes birth among those engaged in fruitive activities, and one dies in the mode of ignorance, he takes birth in the animal kingdom. Text 16. The result of pious action is pure and it says to be the mode of goodness, but action done in the mode of passion result in misery, and action performed in the mode of ignorance result in foolishness. Text 17. From the mode of goodness, real knowledge develops. From the mode of passion, greed develops, and from the mode of ignorance develop foolishness, madness, and illusion. Text 18. Those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets, and those in the abominable mode of ignorance go down to the hellish world.
Very good.
Hare Krishna.
Shivangi will read last section, section 3, verses 19 to 27, Transcending the Modes.
Text 19. When one properly sees that in all activities no other performer is at work than these modes of nature, and he knows the Supreme Lord, who is transcendental to all these modes, he attains by spiritual nature. When the embodied being is able to transcend these three modes associated with the material body, he can become free from birth, death, old age, and their distresses, and can enjoy nectar even in this life. Arjuna inquired, O my dear Lord, by which symptoms is one known who is transcendental to these three modes? What is his behavior, and how does he transcend the modes of nature? The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O son of Pandu, he who does not hate illumination, attachment, and delusion when they are present, or long for them when they disappear, one who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of material qualities, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active, who is situated in the self and regards alike happiness and distress, who looks upon a lump of earth, a stone, and a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is equal towards the desirable and the undesirable, who is steady, situated equally while in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, and one who has renounced all material activities. Such a person is said to have transcended the modes of nature. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. And I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness.
Very good. Mayank Prabhu is going to present chapter 14.
Hare Krishna everyone. Today I'll be presenting chapter 14 of the Bhagavad Gita titled Three Modes of Material Nature, Guna Traya Vibhaga Yoga. I humbly seek the blessings of all devotees Srila Prabhupada, all gurus in disciplic succession, and Sri Sri Radhakrishna. Please forgive me for any shortcomings as I share this chapter with you. This chapter builds on the foundation of earlier chapters. In chapters 7 to 12, Krishna revealed that he is the source of everything and that devotion to him is the highest path. Chapter 13 taught how real freedom comes through knowledge, understanding the difference between body and soul, and by cultivating humility. Now, in chapter 14, Krishna takes the discussion deeper. He explains how three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, influence all actions and bind the soul to the cycle of birth and death. Understanding these modes is essential because it shows the path to rise beyond them and achieve liberation just as the great sages of the past have done. Krishna begins by telling Arjuna that he is about to share a knowledge greater than all that has been spoken so far, knowledge that helps one rise above the three modes and achieve a divine nature similar to his own. He explains that material nature, Prakriti, is like a mother providing all bodies while he himself is the seed giving father. All species, human, animals, plants, or celestial bodies, are born from this union guided by Krishna's will and past karma. Even though the soul is eternal and spiritual, once it comes in contact with material nature, it becomes bound by these modes. Krishna further introduces the three gunas, modes, that is, goodness, sattva, which is pure and uplifting, passion, rajas, which is driven by desire and ambition, and ignorance, tamas, which is dark and degrading. These modes constantly influence how we think, feel, and act. They decide whether we experience peace or restlessness, knowledge or confusion, and even determine our future births. Krishna first describes goodness. This mode brings clarity, knowledge, and peace. A person in goodness lives a disciplined and thoughtful life, is honest and self controlled, and experiences happiness through wisdom. However, Krishna warns that goodness still binds us because one may become attached to the happiness or pride that comes from being good or knowledgeable. For example, a philosopher might live in wisdom but still remain tied to material life if they cling to that identity. Krishna then explains passion. Passion is fueled by desire and craving. It drives people to work endlessly, chasing wealth, recognition, relationships, and pleasure. Yet nothing achieved through passion brings lasting contentment. Passion creates constant restlessness as the heart always seeks more. Krishna points out that much of modern life is ruled by this mode. People believe that success or possessions will bring happiness, but passion only fuels more longing and competition. The third mode, ignorance, is the most binding. It brings darkness and illusion. Under its influence, people fall into laziness, confusion, and harmful habits. A person in ignorance neglects spiritual growth, wastes time, and often becomes indifferent to life's true purpose. Unlike the clarity of goodness or the drive of passion, ignorance traps the soul in a state of decline and spiritual blindness. Krishna further explains that these three modes are always competing for control of the mind and heart. At times, goodness shines through, bringing clarity. At other times, passion dominates, creating restlessness and ambition. And when ignorance prevails, it covers everything with confusion and inaction. Our daily moods, decisions, and behaviors are often a reflection of which mode is dominant at that moment. Krishna further says that the mode prevailing at the time of death determines the soul's next destination. A person who dies in goodness ascends to higher planets like Brahmaloka or Janaloka, where sages and saints live in wisdom and peace. A person who dies in passion returns to earthly life bound to hard work and material desires. Whereas a person who dies in ignorance falls to lower species, even animal forms. Krishna also describes the results of action performed under these modes. Action performed in goodness brings peace, clarity, and inner satisfaction, whereas in passion brings struggle, dissatisfaction, and fatigue, and in ignorance brings suffering, confusion, and spiritual decline. Krishna explains that the ultimate goal is not to remain in any mode, not even in goodness, but to rise beyond all three. Even goodness, while uplifting, is still a binding force if we are attached to it. The only way to transcend these modes is through bhakti yoga, that is devotional service. By remembering Krishna, serving him with love, and dedicating our life to him, we can rise to a spiritual platform where the modes no longer control us. Just as a lotus grows in muddy water but remains unstained, a devotee lives in this material world but is untouched by its modes. Arjuna, wanting to understand further, asked the following three questions. What are the symptoms of a person who has gone beyond the modes? How does such a person live? And what is the process to rise above them? Krishna replies that one who has transcended the modes does not hate or desire the effects of the modes, remains steady in happiness and distress, treats gold, stone, and earth the same, is unaffected by honor or dishonor, sees friends and enemies equally, and lives without selfish motives. Such a person lives only for Krishna's service. The process to reach this state, Krishna says, is unwavering devotion, that is bhakti. Through constant remembrance and service to him, one becomes free from material contamination and attains the spiritual platform of Brahman. The chapter ends with Krishna's powerful statement, I am the foundation of the impersonal Brahman, which is eternal and full of bliss. Real perfection comes when one knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and serves me with devotion. Chapter 14 explains how goodness, passion, and ignorance shape our actions and determine our future. While goodness uplifts and passion or ignorance can bind and degrade, Krishna's message is clear. Our real aim is to go beyond all three modes through devotion. When we engage in loving service to Krishna, we rise above material nature and rediscover our true spiritual identity, which is eternal, pure, and full of joy. Please forgive me for any mistakes and shortcomings. Hare Krishna.
Any questions, comments, realizations for Mayank Prabhu? All right. Mayank Prabhu's presentation is a very good example of listening to our classes and listening to past class recordings and then speaking in your own words. Normally, nothing wrong in repeating what you hear. And what Mayank Prabhu did perfectly is that he heard our classes and then he's speaking in his own words. Exact same point. He's not changing anything. He's not adding or subtracting anything. He's just making it personal. So that's very nice. Very, very nice presentation. Thank you. All right, let me do a quick presentation of chapter 14. Chapter 14 is titled Modes of Material Nature, Guna Traya Vibhaga Yoga. Modes are the mechanism by which soul is bound, but modes are not the cause of bondage. The cause of bondage is soul's bhumte, or the desire to enjoy the material world. And the bondage is executed through the modes. Chapter 14 analyzes that bondage of the modes is so complex and is very difficult to break free from. Only by taking shelter of Krishna, one can get free from the modes. In 14.4, Krishna says that all living beings are manifest by the grace of Supreme Lord, because the Supreme Lord is the seed-giving Father. Now, how the modes bind is that modes are the subtle forces that shape interaction between gross matter and consciousness. Modes are subtle things, not gross things, but subtle. And being subtle, one has to perceive the modes through their characteristics. The influence of the modes on people makes them to react differently to a situation or an event. Example, if there is a fire, some run in panic. Why? Because the mode of passion was influencing that person at that point of time. At the same place where the fire is, some freeze. Why? Because the mode of ignorance is influencing on those people who freeze, even if they are at the same place. And some other person will call the fire department or find the extinguisher to extinguish the fire. Why? Because the mode of goodness is influencing. So at the same place where the fire is happening for the same event, different modes influence different people. Now, based on characteristics or actions of the various modes, you will recognize that you are under which mode at a particular point in time. The characteristics are goodness is thinking and active. Passion is acting, but there is not very much thinking happening. And ignorance is neither thinking nor acting. So the fire example, I explained all those scenarios. The goodness among the three modes, the mode of goodness, the Satatva Guna, is purer. It's not 100% pure, it's purer comparatively. The mode of goodness illuminates the 9 gates, the senses of the body, with knowledge and frees one from sinful reactions. Because senses get illuminated, means person knows what should be done and what should not be done, how to act and how to not act. Now, soul thinks, I am knowledgeable, I am clever, superior to others. This actually causes bondage. So mode of goodness also causes bondage. Destination upon death, if someone dies in the mode of goodness, he attains pure higher planets of the sages. Now, passion. Passion is compared to attachment to what one has and what one does not have, and is produced of hankering. Therefore, one is bound by fruitive activities, resulting in misery and greed. Destination upon someone dying in the mode of passion is that one attains earthly planets. Ignorance is born out of ignorance, and it's a vicious cycle. Ignorance deludes all and binds one with madness, sleep, etc. Destination upon dying in the mode of ignorance is birth in lower species and lower planets. Now, question is, how can we understand which mode we are in? Answer is by looking at the prominent emotions that we are having and the actions that we are prompted to do. So we are all born with a set of modes. Modes are like the default settings on a new device that we buy, say a cell phone or a computer or whatever. It has a default ringtone. Similarly, we all have a default setting in our body. The default modes we have acquired from our previous lives. Now, every situation we encounter in our life, we should choose the mode of goodness. Otherwise, we will continue to act according to the default setting in our body. The modes determine the external circumstances we face, but the modes do not determine our action. Modes do not determine our behavior. We still have the capacity to choose. We still have free will. Our free will is conditioned by the modes. We have unlimited freedom within a limited framework. Limited framework means, say, a horse is tied to a small length of rope versus a horse tied to a long length of rope. So the horse that is tied to a small length of rope is because the horse is wild in past and in current life. The horse has associated with mode of ignorance. Therefore, the horse is wild, and therefore his framework is limited. Means the horse is tied to a shorter length rope versus a horse that is tied to a longer length rope. The horse has associated with more of goodness, more somewhat passion also, and less of ignorance. Therefore, the horse is gentle, and his framework or the length of the rope is long, and the horse has unlimited freedom to move within the radius of that rope. This length of the rope, whether it's shorter length or longer length, meaning how much free will we have, is determined by our past karma, our inclinations, and how we have associated with the modes in the past. Now we can change the modes by increasing the composition of higher modes in whatever we are doing on a day-to-day basis. By changing the externals more and more towards goodness, we can change the modes. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11 in Uddhav Gita, Krishna gives 10 items that we can change externally by which we can effect a change to our internal modes. The first item is water and food. Srila Prabhupada said, always one should take Krishna Prasadam. Second is scriptures. That read scriptures, and Srila Prabhupada specifically said, do not read non-Krishna conscious books. Just read Krishna conscious books, specifically Srila Prabhupada books. Third is association. Srila Prabhupada said that one should always stay in association of devotees. Fourth is the way we are born. Now this we cannot change, but we can change by taking second birth, by taking initiation from a bona fide spiritual master. Fifth is the area in which we live. So if we stay in temple proximity, the vibrations of Gopinath is itself sanctifying. So we do not have to move to temple or in proximity of temple. We just have to make our home as temple, and that's how we are 24 hours in closer contact with Gopinath and temple environment. Sixth item is the time of the day. So from early morning before sunrise or just around sunrise time, there is more of goodness more prevalent. Then as the day starts, say around 8 or 9 a.m., depending on which city you are in, everybody starts running up and down, traveling. The mode of passion is prevalent. And then evening time, when everybody is returning home, wanting to enjoy television, internet, or senses, the mode of ignorance is more prevalent. So if we are awake and alert during the early morning time, during when mode of goodness is more prevalent, then we can benefit from this. And Srila Prabhupada said that we should wake up early in the morning and do our sadhana. Seventh item is karma, is the kind of activities that we do. Eighth item is mantra to chant, that is where we should chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. This is the yoga dharma of Kali Yuga, to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Ninth item is dhyana, that this is our constant thought process. What are we thinking constantly? We should constantly think of Krishna and Krishna's services and Krishna's words. Remember verses. Remember Krishna's pastimes, qualities. 10th item is samskar, means the kind of impression we carry in our mind. Say when we go on some festivals or some pilgrimage, or we hear some good Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, etc. lectures, then we should try to carry those impressions, make notes, and try to refer so that the impressions keep remaining fresh in us. So very important that one should become observer of our own thoughts, meaning we become observer of our inner world. By default, we observe the outer world around us. Similarly, Bhagavad Gita is telling us to observe our inner world also. At this point, Arjuna inquires how to transcend the modes. And Krishna states that situate yourself on the fourth mode as the solution. The fourth mode is devotional service. So Krishna says in 14.26, Mam chayo avyabhicharine bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samanti etan brahma bhuyai kalpate. By practice of bhakti, our free will is strengthened in our capacity to counter push the modes. So all three modes bind, but the mode of goodness is very dangerous because I become very proud. Pride is like the jaws of pride, that I am superior to others. But such pride is just another illusion. Pride is very sneaky enemy. One may overcome temptations of all other anarthas and walk into the jaws of pride. So you may think you won the war, but actually you still lost. So the question becomes, well, then what exactly is the solution? If mode of goodness is also so very dangerous, then what exactly is the solution? The answer is, the solution is to stay humble and stay detached and stay service oriented. That's a quick summary of chapter 14. Questions, comments, realizations?
This discussion is always very nice to hear again and again. So practical.
Very good. Thank you for hearing with rapt attention. You are absolutely correct. Sanjay has explained this in Bhagavad Gita chapter 18, should be verse 76, 77, where he has used the word again and again. Sanjay is saying that I hear this message again and again, and I'm getting goosebumps. Why? Because when you hear Bhagavad Gita again and again, you are associating with Krishna again and again, and Krishna is unlimited. So he keeps revealing newer and newer meanings as we continue to read more and more. Very good. Thank you for listening with rapt attention. Rest of you? All right. So next week, we have Mathan Prabhu for chapter 15 presentation and Chandran Prabhu for chapter 16 presentation on 27th of July. Now on the same Excel document, you have a tab for Nectar of Instruction. So after we finish Bhagavad Gita on 3rd of August, then from the following week of 10th of August, we will revise Nectar of Instruction also. You'll be surprised that when we will read Nectar of Instruction and discuss Nectar of Instruction, you will say, when did we read this? When did we discuss this? So you all can select. I have also requested devotees from batch number 5 to also join the Nectar of Instruction presentation because I did not do the revision in that batch. So we'll see how much they will do the presentation. who all will do the presentation. So next week, 2 weeks, we still have Bhagavad Gita, Matan Prabhu chapter 15, Chandran chapter 16, and then following week Pragya chapter 17 and Shivangi chapter 19. And then I have the slide also on the screen that from August 10th, we will revise Nectar of Instruction. Take a snapshot and we'll go from there. So populate your names for Nectar of Instruction presentations also. We'll go from there. Questions, comments, realizations? All right. So last part, we'll discuss devotees who did services last week during Rath Yatra time. So I see Archana, Dhara, Malti, Matan, Prabhu, and Pragya. At least I remember these from those who are virtually present here. Vimal Prabhu was also doing service, but he's not virtually present. So I request all these devotees to please quickly share your experiences and your learnings for the benefit of everyone. Everybody, quickly.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Krishna.
Yeah, we did service. That was a great opportunity, first of all. And like always, we, even though we know that our mind takes over when we are doing the service and not reciting the verses, and you being present there physically, even then, service after service, I think we still end up doing the same thing and our mind takes over. And no matter how many times you tell us, it's very hard for us to recite or practice verses, and our mind just takes over. Yeah,
very good. That we have to realize that mind is crap. Dhara went on to say to me, can we get this Gabbar Singh away? That you want to share? that this was actually mind talking, right? That I kept reminding, but nobody was really listening. Why? Because the mind was just agitated, and we were doing services after a little gap where we have obviously all these devotees have not been practicing while you are doing your day-to-day activities. Well, look what happens with your mind. So Dara was saying, this Gabbar Singh, can you get away from us? Dara wants to share.
Yeah, it felt like, someone is on our head and telling us to do, but our mind does not want to do it. So it was like, yeah.
Okay, very good. So we have to practice constantly, right? So because we did services after a little gap, then you all were caught under the modes. Exactly what we discussed in chapter 14 today. That you all got caught in the modes and the mind got contaminated. And rest of you who did not come for services, now you do the practice at your home and judge where your mind is standing now. So we have to be very, very cautious to constantly practice whether or not we are coming for services at the temple. Okay, very good. Rest of you?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So it's always doing a service in Radharani kitchen is always divine and blissful experience. I want to share about Tuesday. That day it was not with our group. So that day it was Aditi Mataji's group. So that day we were making the favorite sweet of Jagannath, the Khoja. So the main devotee who was taking care of the Khojas, she asked us to make it proper shape and all. And when we were doing, she was so unhappy. She was said, you know what? If I'm your boss, I'll fire you without pay. So your job is so bad. So everyone and there in that group, the initiate devotees was also there. Then they started singing the Jagannath Ashtakam and follow along with them. The end turned like the sweet which were like the Mataji was not happy. It's so nice. It's turned so nice and fluffy. She came and said, you guys should take a break and just go and see how it turned. So I just remember, yeah, Krishna always said that just do your duty. Don't you're not entitled for the result. So that was very awesome, and everybody was started saying, "Oh, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath." So it was really beautiful experience. And Thursday, Friday, Saturday, again, I got an opportunity to work with my Bhakti Vish group, led by Ramvilas Das Prabhuji, and it was always it was wonderful working with all the group, and it feel like we are a family, one family, and meeting with after a long time. So the joy is totally different. So it was doing a service with Dhara, Raksha, Malti, Pragya, Vimal Prabhu, Ritu Mataji, even Ashish Prabhu. It was first time meeting with Ashish Prabhu, and really miss work doing a service with Shivangi, Divya, Shalini, Gopal Krishna Mataji. So it was really awesome experience.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Rest of you who have not spoken.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. It was good opportunity for us to do services at temple, Prabhuji. Thank you for that. I wasn't able to come on time, but still I was trying to make it on time. I didn't expect I will be there even 1 hour early to do the services with you, Prabhuji. But I don't know, Krishna maybe wanted few hours to do the service, so I made it on Friday. I was happy. After a long time, I did services. So, yeah, it was
All right.
good, Prabhuji.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Pragya, I know you are traveling. Are you able to share something? Okay, Pragya is traveling. She may not be able to speak. So there's a question posted by Abhishek Prabhu in the chat that is it that some services are more physical where it's more appropriate to recite verses than there are some services which are more mentally absorbing, say when you are cooking. It is important to try memorizing during that time also. So yes, you should try to memorize no matter what services you are doing. So our focus is to focus our mind on Krishna. So Abhishek Prabhu, you have also done services at the Toronto Temple. And those who did services recently, I told them that many times I've paged at the temple saying, come to Kurukshetra. That services during these busy times is like you are fighting a Kurukshetra war. So Krishna says in 8.7, anybody has memorized 8.7, wants to recite? Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu. Ma manusmaram yuddhacha. The second line is very important. Ma manusmaram yuddhacha. Right? So for Arjuna, it's yudh. For us is whatever activities that we do, that we have to remember Krishna before doing the activity, while doing the activity, and after doing the activity. And the result will be Mai arpita manobuddhir maam evashiyashi asamshaya. So no matter what you do, yes, I understand, say when you are cooking, at certain times you may have to focus to ensure that you are putting the proper salt, the proper amount of all the masalas and the sweet, the sugar, etc. Yes, that little time you may have to concentrate proper so that cooking comes properly. But otherwise, Ma Manusmaram Yuddhacha, 8.7 second line. That's Krishna's instruction. Does that answer?
Yes, like that is very appropriate that Lord Krishna has asked Arjuna to remember even when he is fighting, which is like very
difficult.
Thank you.
It's a very important line. Ma Manusmaram Yuddhacha. So can you imagine that Arjuna remembered Krishna while fighting a ghastly war, killing his favorite relatives. And we are just doing simple services, and our mind is so agitated, exactly what Dhara correctly described, that we cannot remember Krishna. So we have to recognize our situation and set the goal of 8.7 Ma Manusmaram Yuddhacha. Abhishek Prabhu, Dhara.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Questions, comments, realizations? All right. So we will stop here. So select your nectar of instruction presentations also when time permits. We still have 2 weeks, and we'll go from there. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.